Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I'm going to share a little bit of a lesson with you guys that I have learned, this year. And again, all this stuff you're seeing is from the same workout. It's basically a chest and tricep workout, not counting my back and bicep work because I do all my upper body work in one day, spread out twice a week. So 2 upper body days every week. But one of the things that I have observed over the years as a coach and in my own training, and again, this has been helpful for me getting my upper body bigger, all my benching muscles bigger, getting my bench up. I mean, you guys are watching me do eight an 8 rep set there with 315 all paused, right? We're getting pretty decent at this. But something I've noticed even with clients, what I find is that my lifters who make the best progress, they get the biggest, the strongest, everything else, we end up doing fairly moderate volume. And I think the thing is, when you start looking at the newest meta-analysis that came out, this year on proximity to failure and training volume, it generally finds that when we start getting into really challenging sets, we just do not need as much volume as we think we do to see very, very good hypertrophy and maybe even, maximum hypertrophy. All right, it draws into question, other than maybe your really smaller pump exercises adding in, of if there's much value at all to going over about 10 sets. And even historically, we've seen most of the best evidence-based coaches out there are saying, look, 10 to 20 sets per week should produce maximum hypertrophy for the majority of people. But then we start finding when we start getting up to limit sets, even that is on the extreme end, right? It's on the extreme end. So but if you think about it, it really overlaps, right? When we look at some of the stuff on these meta-analysis that have been done on this, and it's saying, look, as low as 5 to 10 sets oftentimes, if sets are taken to failure, or 0 reps in reserve, because there doesn't really seem to be a difference, right? A failed rep doesn't cause training stimulus. All right, so if we go up to really challenging limit sets, they're showing as low as 5 to 10. But even then, if we're leaving a rep or so in reserve, that might go up just a hair. And that's kind of the point that I would make to people. You would be surprised how little it takes. In my case, I was only doing 6 to 8 sets for my chest while getting up to that strength level that you're seeing right there. That's all I had been doing per week. Per week. Triceps and things get more work. I've had little phases where a little bit of extra delt work. But my chest got bigger and my bench went up as a very advanced lifter. And I've seen the same thing with a lot of my clients. I've gotten guys up to very big bench presses, very big squats, while really just focusing on their weakest link. In other words, their main volume is fairly low. I've gotten guys to 500 squats who, if they don't have a quad weakness, we just do good mornings and posterior chain work, and they do speed boxes with some max effort squatting work. The end result, they get big squats. I've seen guys who don't even do any quad work outside of their little bit of heavy squatting. Nice moderate volumes and focusing on their weakest links. Hey, same thing with the benching. In my case, that focus on the triceps and just saying, how much benching do we have to do to make progress? But everyone wants to come in and just do enormous amounts of volume. They want to do this tons and tons of volume. But it's really not that supported by the evidence. It's not supported by the real world. All right, there have been plenty of people who did more moderate volumes who just trained really hard, who have gotten extremely jacked, extremely strong. And you've seen it in both powerlifting and in bodybuilding. Now, before people chime in and say, well, you have to factor in the drugs. Well, of course we do. Of course you do. But, so what if you factor them in? If people who are on drugs should be able to handle more volumes, right? They have better recovery. Yet oftentimes you're still seeing guys winning who are on the lower end of the volume. Okay, even in those cases. But when I'm talking about some of these guys, I'm talking about some drug-free lifters, right? Again, I've taken lifters that they only do, say, if their triceps are a weak link, as few as 5 or 6 quality sets of chest pressing and benching per week. And then they come in and they hammer triceps. If their delts are weak, we come in and hammer delts. Squatting, if their quads are weak, all right, we'll do leg pressing, single leg exercises. Their glutes, posterior chain, hip extension are weak. We do good mornings. And then we take all the actual squat type volume down. They get bigger legs. Their squats go up. Okay? The point is, when work quality is high, we just don't need as much volume as we think we do. And again, people are like, well, if I do more, but how much you really think you're getting? Meaning guys are going from, say, 8 to 10 sets or whatever, all the way up to 20. But is it much difference? Even if it adds a little bit, it may not be as much as you think. And if you were making progress on the other, why add it? And I've also watched plenty of guys just stall and stagnate. I've seen this over and over as a coach, who cut their volumes back. They're doing 20, 25 sets for a muscle. I cut their volume back for a few months. They start hitting lifetime PRs. They get bigger. Okay, they get bigger. And it's not because it's lazy. It's because it's saying, look, there's a certain point where you can only do so much high quality work before it starts to degrade. And there's things we can come in and just do some light pump work, like the bands you see me doing here. That's fine. That's different. But we're also not using that as necessarily a primary training modality, are we? Right? Of course not. But, we've seen it with me. We've watched it firsthand in my vlogs, and I don't always like to use that anecdote, but this is an observation of plenty of my clients, talking to other coaches. I know coaches who really have more minimalist levels of volumes, and they produce phenomenal athletes. And the point I would make with that is, if you can do it with less, you should do it with less. Generally, because it's just less wear and tear on the body. It's less wear and tear on the body, any way that you break it down. So, if you could do half the volume and get the same results, why wouldn't you? That saves you recovery, free time, energy, everything else to do other things. Okay? And then people say, but I do it just because I love training. But at that point, you're training for some love or therapeutic effect. You're not training for results. And you just need to admit that. We need to be honest with ourselves about that. Right? And call it what it is. You're not doing it to get more results. You're doing it because you need to train. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.